Guys, what's up? So it's been kind of difficult for me to jump back on my regularly scheduled almost once a week podcast. I do apologize for that. I have some interviews scheduled and backed up, but I've been extending my holidays, and I'm also working to revamp everything. I'm still in season 1 technically. I haven't switched to season 2 because I haven't changed anything. I think this may be my last one, and I think I'm gonna hop in season 2 with the same old, and then maybe later on change it up, as in changing the website and changing the style of it and everything. And by style, I mean some of my graphics. I've been talking to a couple of people, but nothing that I'm like, oh, I love this has stuck. So stay tuned for that. Let's see what's going on in current events. My last podcast, I was optimistic. I was like, new year, soon to be new president, and it's the same old stuff. Even though I live in Maryland, my family's still in DC. And going there, it just looks like a war zone. Military is everywhere. They have checkpoints. It looks surreal. And I don't know, where are you in the world, but again, like, I'm not used to seeing heavily armed, not security guards, like military, like walking around with weapons. Like, I'm not used to that. I've seen it once in a while because I used to work near the White House, and you would occasionally see stuff like they would barricade around the White House. I've seen that before, but not to this extent. It's not my city. It used to be that it was concentrated. If you were by the White House, you are used to this. But the area got bigger, and it's like invading into the residential. It's the normalcy of what you're used to doing in the district has shut down. If you were working anywhere near the White House, you're not working there this week. Like, it's serious. So whatever it is that you see on TV is like a fraction of what's actually going on. But again, like, I am in Maryland, so I'm kind of shielded by this. The job I'm currently at right now is also in Maryland, so business as usual. Everyone else dear to me lives and works in DC is experiencing this. And I was going to talk about that a little bit, my feelings about it, because all last week I was thinking about coming on here and expressing my feelings and I was like, no, I need a break. I feel like everybody just needs a little break from reality a little bit. And so this is all I'm going to say about it. And what I am going to talk about, though, is this episode. Anzilla Gilmore, AIA. She got F'd back in 2019. This was in Las Vegas. The first time in a very long time that I missed an AIA convention. I didn't know if I was going to attend the one in LA. I was kind of on the fence to that. But then COVID happened and everything in life got canceled. So anyways, I'm thinking about doing something special for Black History Month. And I was like, well, maybe I should wait till Black History Month to do I'm not going to tell you what I was thinking about doing. But anyway, I was thinking about pausing this and waiting until February. But then we talked about the scholarship. So this is Diversity Advancement Scholarship. And I did not know it was due on January 15th. For whatever reason, I thought it was due later. So this is after the deadline has passed. So I do apologize for that. The goal was to get it before the deadline, and now you can use this as a reference in the future. So hopefully you're able to gather some information, or just, in general, because there are other scholarships, other things out there that you can apply what Anzilla and I talked about. I was listening to this episode and editing it. I realized that we are talking as friends, which we are, but with the caveat that she is a licensed architect that she is FAIA, that she is a founding member of the Houston NOMA chapter. Like all these great things that she has done. But we're just talking. The reason why I split this podcast into like two things. One is the discovery of why I got into architecture and how I grew up, housing, affordable housing, low income housing, all that stuff. That's part of it. But the other part is highlighting all my friends, highlighting all these amazing women and men that have influenced my career, that I've met as part of the journey of my career. How amazing they are as friends, as colleagues, but also the work that they've been doing and how they've just been killing this game. But yet you don't see them or you don't hear about them as frequently as you would hear some of these other men out there. And it's the human side of architects. And it's shedding a light that being a Black woman in this field, being a Black man in this field, we are just like everybody else. I think that we are bombarded with the ones that we are used to seeing all the time, over and over and over again in social media, over and over again in these top 10 lists, over and over again of these, the majority of them have passed away, and you see one or two that's alive. And you're like, why is it that yes, let's recognize the pioneers, but understand they are pioneers. Let's celebrate those who are currently doing the awesome things that they do. Recognizing that there's not 4 or 5 Black women in architecture, but there's a lot of us out there. And like, all of them are my friends. All the awesome women that I've talked to that's been on this program and will be on this program are awesome women in architecture. And it just, I don't know. Why aren't other platforms highlighting these women? I have no idea. So I was just, as I was listening to it, I realized all the things that Anzia has done in her life, how humble she is, and she does it because no one else has stood up to do it. And it's so natural for her to do. It's like she's like in a room and she turns around, it's like, no one's doing this. Okay, I'll raise my hand, I'll do it. And she did that so many times. And it wasn't because she was trying to get effed. Like, that wasn't her goal. She was just doing it because no one else wanted to do it. Like, that's it. That was it. And I think that's so remarkable. And it's easy and natural for her to do. She didn't do it to get something in return. I love that about her. I think about all the others that have the same attitude. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of us. This is doing it because we're passionate about it. And it's not to get an award. Now, talking about me, I pursued the awards that I went after because I needed validation from my job or my future jobs. That's the only reason why I pursued these awards, to supplement the fact that I'm not licensed and to say that, listen, I am a leader. All these other people think I have leadership qualities too. Here you go. That was the motivation of it. The fact that I am worth more than whatever bar you want to put me at. My reasoning became a supplement versus Anzie's reason is because she's in favor of God. I don't know. She does good work, and good work rewards her. That's how I see it as. I hope you see that too. So that's it. Thanks for listening, and here you go. Anzilla.
Or Anzilla.
Anzilla. Sorry.
Yeah.
Every time I look at the Anzilla, but it's Anzilla. Yeah. So how did your folks pick that name?
It's actually my grandmother's name.
No.
So, and she is from St. Lucia. So when she says it, it sounds a lot better. Or when she used to say it, she passed away a few years ago. But yeah, when anyone from the island says that name, you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty. But any American says it, you're like, just call
Like
me.
me, like I say, Anzilla.
Or
Like,
anybody. Well, actually, you know what? It's anybody like that speaks Spanish. Anyone who's not American, it sounds better. It's like you talk to people who speak Spanish, they'll call me Anzia. I think that's really pretty. But yeah, that's why I tell everybody call me Anzie. It's just easier.
That's what I know you as.
There you go.
Are you the only child?
By my mother, yes. My father has, gosh, I should be able to, I think it's 4, 5. Look, four other than me. But I am the oldest.
Okay.
And I have a sister who is a year younger than my son.
Oh, he never stopped.
No, he did not.
My dad didn't stop either. So he has I think she's 6, 7 now.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
Yes. Kept on going.
Well, it's interesting to talk to someone who is supposed to be your sibling who is younger than one of your children. It's a very interesting dynamic. And I have to like tell myself, don't be her mother, because that's not what she's here for.
You just want to make sure that your kids don't intermingle with.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, I mean,
No?
It's like I said, it's just a weird dynamic. I can't help but be her mother. I'm everyone's mother.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I've come to talk to you on a couple of things. So speaking on that, how do we meet?
I don't know. I remember reaching out to you to do that interview for the diversity scholarship, and I already knew you.
It wasn't like, oh,
yeah,
who's this person? It wasn't like that at all.
It wasn't. So it had to have been through NOMA, had to have been. Although I know you haven't been active, it's the only reason why we would have crossed paths.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
We had that drink in a hotel one time.
Mm-hmm. But you weren't a stranger then.
No.
Well, no. NOMA does that. It's weird that way.
Like you feel like you've known somebody for like forever, and then.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I can't remember.
So when I was a membership chair, everybody's name.
Maybe that's what it was.
That's what it was. So at some point you were a member of NOMA, and I came across your name, and we probably exchanged emails or something, and then met at a NOMA conference or something. And there you have it.
I'm going to take that.
Okay.
We don't really.
Yeah, I don't ever remember being strangers. Let's say that.
Yeah. So, have you ever left Texas?
No, I have left Houston, but I went to Prairie View, which is about 50 miles outside of Houston. And then I lived in Arlington, Texas for graduate school, and Waco, Texas for a year. And then I came back to Houston. Well, Missouri City, kind of. I grew up in the suburbs of Houston. So I may have lived in Houston proper for, I don't know, a year or two, but Houston proper is different than the suburbs.
I think all of Texas is different from Texas.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
yeah,
like
we're a little blue dot in a really big red state.
You mentioned your family's from St. Lucia, or your grandmother?
My grandmother's from St. Lucia, but my father was born in Grenada. So my grandmother, I guess, immigrated to Grenada looking for work and ended up raising her 12 children there. Yeah, lots of kids.
How'd you guys get to Texas?
So my parents met so my father came to this country working on a yacht for a family that was friends with my mother's family. So my mother's from Portland, Maine, the whitest city in the whitest state. and she is white. And she met this little like, I don't know, cabin boy on a friend's yacht, and was like, "Ooh, look, different." So they I don't know, struck up a relationship, and then they both moved to Memphis, where I was born. So I said I've never really left Texas. I wasn't born in Texas. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. But then I don't know, my mother was really young and wasn't interested in a relationship. But so she had a job at Southwestern Bell, and back then, Ma Bell, you could move anywhere because it was a big monopoly. You could just move around. So she decided she was going to move to Texas, and she didn't really consult my father at all. So she left, moved to Texas, and he moved to Missoula, Montana to find yet another really, really white state for him to live in. So he's always the only black guy, and my mom has always been the only white lady in a black situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I like grew up in a totally black neighborhood. I think from third grade to when I graduated from Prairie View, everything in my world was black except for her.
Did it feel any different being at
No,
all?
it was.
No.
So my neighborhood, strangely enough, was like known for being like the place where all the light skinned girls lived. So you couldn't even tell that I was biracial. It wouldn't be, you probably weren't aware. No one really can tell. But it was when people would say, "Is your mom white?" that I'd be like, "Yeah." Like they would see her and be like, "That's weird. Is your mom white?" "Yeah, she is." But other than that, it was just, I don't know. It was just a thing. I didn't know any different, I guess.
How'd you get into architecture? Why architecture?
Somebody asked me in the 10th or 11th grade, "What do you want to be?" And I just said architect. I don't know why.
You never, how did you know that word?
I don't know. I have no recollection. I think I've said before that it's because there's probably some subconscious thing that was happening. I probably saw the dad on the Brady Bunch or something. There's something that must have happened that made me know the word, but I didn't know any architects, never met any, hadn't had any interaction with anyone in architecture. I will say from time to time that I had like a train set. So I used to like build the little town. Never used the friggin' train. I just built the little town. So I guess that might be one of the reasons, but I don't know why. I don't know. There were no architects in my world.
So what happened when you got in school? You're in Prairie View and you like.
So I ended up actually in architecture, majoring in architecture, because like they asked me in 10th or 11th grade, "What do you want to be?" I said architect. I never thought about it again. I was actually going to go major in journalism because I had been in journalism from like 8th grade to 12th grade. And I had visited Texas State, I think it was Southwest Texas back then, with a friend of mine. And we were both going to major in journalism and go there. Or I was going to go to Howard and major in journalism. But I had two really, really close friends that were already at Prairie View. And I went to visit them and ended up in like the room of a guy who was majoring in architecture. And he had the most awesome model I had ever seen in my life. And they started talking about architecture. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to build models. I didn't know. I was ignorant.
How was your education at Prairie View?
I don't know. I criticized Prairie View. I think at the time I was there when the program was transitioning. It was recently accredited. We did not have we had like an interim dean when I started, Simon Wiltz. Great guy, but he went to MIT, really, really smart. But the department didn't have any, real leadership because he was a practicing architect. So they hired Dr. Sabuni to become the dean my sophomore year. So she's brand new. She had never practiced architecture and she hadn't, I don't know, I don't even know how long she had been in academia. So the program was really, really young and new and didn't have a whole lot of direction and was in the back of the engineering building. So I would say that I think, I mean, I got a good education. I enjoyed my time there, but I wondered about it enough to go to graduate school to test it. So I was concerned that when I graduated, because I had such a good time. Oh my God. Undergrad was like the best time of my life. And I was a little worried that maybe I didn't learn anything. So we had a visiting professor from UT Arlington who came, and I did fine in his class, but he was like, "Yeah, you ought to consider going to graduate school." So I went to UT Arlington to test my education, and what I found is that, yeah, at Prairie View I did not learn the language of architecture, and I'm still, I would say, not fluent in the language of architecture. I understand it. When people speak it, I know what they're talking about, but I don't speak it. I don't like to speak it. I think it's really But that was how they spoke when I was at UT Arlington, and I thought that it was really, I don't know, elitist, and I did not like my time at UT Arlington. But I did learn something. I got through that program as well. So yeah, my education was interesting. I think I criticize Prairie View because it depends on when you were there and what professors you had and what even department you're in, whether or not you were going to get, a good education. Where I think if you go to Harvard or Yale or even Rice, it's a given that wherever you are at whatever time you're there, you're probably going to get a good education.
Mm.
So, but
Huh?
I still love Prairie View. It was amazing. I learned how to hustle at Prairie View.
You could say that about any HBCUs. You will learn
Yes.
how to hustle.
Yep.
There's the hustle and then there's the side hustle. So
Yep.
you learn both.
Yep. Yep.
So you were the founding member of H NOMA. How did that happen?
After I got my license, I felt like I was alone still. Like there weren't a whole lot of, like I'd never met a Black female architect.
Not at
Um,
all. Since then, I mean, but from the time you got licensed, there was none in Prairie View at all.
nope. Nope. No one visited. No one, nothing. Yeah, no. Well, but let me tell you why that's not strange. There were only three at the time. Like when I was at Prairie View, there were only three in the state. So I was like the fifth in the state.
Are you serious?
So yeah, yeah. So well, actually, it may have only been two at the time. So if Donna Carter or Cheryl McAvee had not come, I mean, didn't come to Prairie View, I wasn't gonna meet them, right? One's in Austin and one is in Dallas. They have no cause to come to Prairie View, so that's why I'd never met one.
Mm.
And then I think between, my graduation and becoming licensed, there may have been two other that became licensed at that time. Another one in Dallas and then another one in San Antonio. So I was the first in Houston. So it's not weird, but it's interesting. But for Houston NOMA, I was looking for something. I was looking for an organization to join, something to get active in, because I'm now, I don't know, I really don't know why I was looking. I just was. I was already a member of the AIA, so I started going to their committee and like committee meetings, and really didn't feel welcome there, or it just didn't feel quite right.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined NOMA. I met Antoine Bryant, and we decided we're going to start a chapter. And because I went to Prairie View, I knew all the people that would join, right? so I've got like 160 people I could reach out to,
Mm-hmm.
but still none of them Black females. I think I have said, since then that, one of the reasons why I wanted to start the chapter was because I didn't want anyone else, that to happen to anybody else. You should meet a Black female architect if you're a Black female, if you're planning on being a Black female architect. So I wanted to put myself in a position where I could reach out to more people. And that's what happened.
It's been going on strong ever since.
Yeah, we had a couple of kind of tired years, but but it has been reinvigorated. There's a new interest in it. I think there's a new appreciation for the value of leadership in organizations like that. Like people are starting to see like I got fellowship problem, because of NOMA. And I think people are noticing like the presidents of NOMA usually become fellows. So they're like, this might be a nice, easy path towards leadership.
What was the decision in becoming a fellow and the process in becoming a fellow?
So the Houston chapter of the AIA contacted me and said, hey, we're going to nominate you. And I didn't really know why. I didn't know why they even knew who I was, because I hadn't been active in the AIA at all. But they decided to nominate me. It was late in the year, and I think 2017 that they reached out. The applications are due in October. I think they reached out to me in July. So I don't know. I thought it was weird and didn't really know what it was about and why anyone would think that it was necessary. I hadn't won any significant awards other than from NOMA. So I'm like, I'm not even qualified for this. I don't know what this is. Why would I do this? But then the next, I think I started reaching out to people just to ask about it. And because I didn't even know what the process was. And I did a little research, and I had been on the Architects Foundation board. So Jeff Potter who ended up being my sponsor, said, yeah, you should do it. And he introduced me to a writer, and I found a graphic designer, did all of the research and understanding what it took to do it. And then I said, okay, let me go ahead and try. So I don't know if you know anything about this process, but I joked at a friend, Carlton Smith, saying to him, oh, it's just an application. And he was like, oh no, it's not just an application.
Did it take half your life?
Well, it was pretty intense, and it's a really horrible process for somebody who has any level of humility, because you have to pat yourself on the back a lot. You have to sing your own praises. You have to do like 40 pages of I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And it's painful. It is painful. So I just wrote down everything I had ever done, right? Since graduating from Prairie View until 2018, 2019, I just wrote everything down. I ended up with, I think, about 11 pages of just bullet points.
Wow.
Little stuff. But I mean, that's like your resume. You take your resume. If you've ever done like a CV, you can probably put together 3 pages of just stuff, right? So, and then you just write down everything, like everything you've ever said, everything you've ever done, anywhere you've ever been. I wrote all that down, and then I sent it to the writer. And man, by the time she finished, I have 40 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. If you're ever going to decide to do fellowship, you hire somebody, because it is not for the faint of heart. And especially if it's not your thing. I'm not a writer. So I had her, and I had a graphic designer, and she would send me copy back. Jeff would read it. He was a great sponsor. He would like read it, say, Anzilla, you need to say more here. You need to do more here, all this good stuff. But, in the end, I had 40 pages worth of stuff, and February of 2019, I got the letter saying, you got it. And I was thrilled, because I said, if I don't get it, I am never doing this again.
How did it feel to read about yourself?
What do you mean?
In 40 pages. You're reflecting on all the things that you've done. How did that reflection feel?
It honestly, it felt like propaganda to me. I mean, it felt good. It felt like, okay, you have done some things, because I guess when you're kind of living your life, you're not really thinking about all of those things. I wasn't doing any of these things on purpose. I wasn't going out to NOMA and saying, I want to be the membership chair because I want to be a fellow one day. So I think what it showed me is that I had been doing a lot of things out of a passion, but not out of any level of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So what it has done for me now is gotten me to be more purposeful, to think a little bit more about why I'm doing things rather than just, you know, so all of my leadership has come from I'm sitting in the room and nobody else is going to do it. Right? So I'll do it. You're like, everyone here stinks. I'll do it. It's not that they stink. They just know better, right? They know better to volunteer for stuff. They're like, I don't have time for that. Where I would be like, okay, I got it. I can do it. I'll take care of it. So I've tried not to, just show up and do things when I'm in a room now and there's a thing that needs to be done and no one is volunteering. I will step up and say, okay, look, one of you here needs to do this, and this is why you need to do it. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And then, so I have now encouraged other people to start stepping up and doing things rather than volunteering myself.
How did you protect yourself in terms of overload or like taking too much on, or that's never a problem for you? Or
no, I think when you're passionate about a thing, I'm a doer. If you give me a thing, if you give me 5 tasks, I'm going to get them done, right? So I don't get overloaded or stressed about things like that. When I have a task at hand, I'm going to take care of it. I think I probably am overloaded. I'm just not paying enough attention, and it doesn't stress me out the way it should. So now I'm more deliberate about not allowing myself to take on more things. But now that my kids are graduating, I'm probably going to start taking on more things again.
Was there ever what do you call those things? The balance. You can't balance between
balance.
Yeah, that.
No.
Nothing.
I've got a really, really good support system. If I ever needed anything from my husband, he would, step up. I put my kids in school close to where I work. So if there was ever anything I needed to do with them, it was right there. All their activities were kind of centralized around where I needed to be. So I don't know. I put the people in the spaces where they needed to be to make my life easier. I don't know if that was easier for my kids, but it worked out for me.
The important person.
Yeah. Yes. It's the mom. The mom is the most
mom is, yeah.
Yeah, no. So in hindsight, like my son, he did not go to school in our neighborhood. My daughter is actually going to school in the neighborhood, but he didn't. And in hindsight, I don't know, it might have been nicer for him to go to school out here, but he ended up going to a pretty good high school and making good connections. And now he's at a good university. He's not at Prairie View. He's at Trinity in San Antonio, which is a PWI. But I mean, it's kicking his butt, but he's planning on going to medical school. So he wants it to kick his butt. So medical school will be easy for him. And my daughter is going to Prairie View because she goes to school out here in my neighborhood.
Nobody wants to go to Rice?
No, my son used to think he wanted to go to Rice, but he ultimately didn't end up going there. I think they reached out to him and put him on the wait list, and he didn't even respond.
How did you get into higher education? That's just kind of like, hey, I applied and I got in type thing, and that was it?
I wanted to be a professor when I graduated from Prairie View. So I went, that's one of the reasons why I went the master's too, not to just test my education, but I want to be a professor. So let me go get my master's. So I somehow ended up in facilities out of an abundance of ignorance and not realizing there was no connection between facilities and academia. So I saw a position at U of H while I was working in a firm here in Houston and applied and didn't even know what I was applying for. Went in for the interview, met the head of the department, Virgil Gay, who explained to me what project management was. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I was like, so you don't have to draw? And he was like, no, we don't do any drawing. And I was like, okay. So I got the job really thinking that I would somehow make the connections that I needed to make so I could become a professor. But then I don't know, really just liked it. I liked telling people what to do, setting deadlines, and then going home. It's awesome.
You were the client.
Yeah, yeah. But I had no idea. And then I left. I think I was at U of H for 2 years and ended up at Rice. And Rice has afforded me all of the opportunities for advancement in a way that, because I had no intention of staying that long. I've been there for 14 years. But every, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or so, I'll get promoted. So, and then they created a position for me now as assistant director for project management engineering. So I could get experience managing people, like, managing personnel rather than just projects. So I don't know, I've been doing that for 2 years. So maybe in another 3 years or so, I'll be able to advance again. And I guess if I don't, then maybe that'll be when I exit. But I cannot imagine doing anything else. I can't imagine going back into traditional practice. Sounds like the worst thing anyone could ever do.
Yeah, I agree. So did getting an F, did that help at all?
In my job?
Well, yeah.
No, because they already knew me, right? I don't think, I mean, I think it helped in people recognizing me professionally, but outside of my job, outside of Rice, it was now all of the architects are aware that I exist. It's as if I just arrived when I got the F. Because before, like I said, I didn't even know the AIA was aware of me. So, but I mean, professionally, like at Rice, they knew me because I was a project manager, right? So they were like, oh yeah, that's Anzilla. Let's be nice to her because we might have to work for her. But after that, I think getting the F, people were like, oh, she's not just a project manager. I don't know that they know what I got the F for, but it meant something.
And it's something that you wasn't really trying to prove.
I tell people all the time that this is divine intervention. That's all anything that I'm doing really is. I joined NOMA on a whim, no real reason other than I want to join something. And the AIA didn't make me feel at home. NOMA, welcomed me in. And I mean, NOMA, if you show up and you're willing to work, they'll continue to pile things on you. So I don't know. I just kept, I don't know. I liked the membership thing. I was meeting new people, and NOMA, they're wonderful. It's amazing.
It is. I haven't been a member in a long time, but it is amazing. Right?
Yeah, it was home. So I don't know. I was membership chair for like 6 years, and when I became membership chair, it was like, nobody's a member of this organization. Like everybody's just showing up for the party, but nobody's paying their dues.
Including me.
Yeah.
Where the party at?
Exactly. So I set out to fix that. So I think I'm kind of a fixer. When I see a problem, I want to get it fixed. So that's kind of what I was doing. And I don't know, I just found myself in all of these roles because of NOMA. Like I ended up on the Architects Foundation because I met Marshall Purnell through NOMA. And he said, hey, you ought to be on this. And then I met Clyde Porter through NOMA. And he said, hey, you ought to try we submit your application or your resume to be the National Ethics Council. So I did that. So, and I don't know, it was just people just asking me to do things. So I would do things. That's how I ended up in that interview with you for the Diversity Advancement Scholarship, because somebody was like, hey, we need somebody to chair this committee. Okay, I'll do it. Why not?
So speaking of that, you invited me and I'm 1,000% grateful. And you didn't even know that I was awarded
I didn't.
that scholarship. Like, gosh, when was it? I have it on here. 2000. That's
Yeah.
21 years ago.
And it's still there.
And it's still there. I owe that scholarship my career. When I lost it and then they gave it back to me. And that was like, I felt like someone believes in me. Someone believed that I can do this. The person who signed it, I have no idea.
Right.
I should look them up and tell them. They'll be like,
Like,
okay, whatever. That was just a stamp. Like my signature stamped on like 50,000 of those. I don't know. But it changed me. It changed. It allowed me to continue on in this very difficult field. And so when you asked me to join, I was like, I can finally give back. I could finally, instead of monetary, I could volunteer my time and make it better and help others get the scholarship. So thank you.
no problem. Were we on the call before? Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
you missed that call.
No, I was on the first call. I missed the second.
The second call. Yeah, that was a good call. Second
Yeah,
call was a good call.
I heard Marcy sent notes out on it. I was like, yeah, they did exactly what I would have done.
How was like being chair there? How was
in hindsight, I don't think I was. I think I said this on the call. I wasn't unapologetically Black enough. Like for whatever reason, I think we always do this. We try to be fair and balanced. And for whatever reason, when I was the chair of that committee, I didn't have the stance where you're going to give this to Black people, right? I was just trying to be fair. So I think the only thing we did when we went through that process of revamping the application is we made it, I think we were attempting to do that. But
to be fair.
Well, no, I think we were attempting to make it where, it would be tilted a little towards African Americans. Yeah. But we didn't just do it in a way that today I would have said, just do it. There are no Black architects. Give the scholarship to Black students. And we could have done that. We just didn't for whatever reason.
Well, so, I mean, that was also on the heels of other scholarships too. Like there's a women's scholarship, and I feel that the diversity scholarship was the catch-all scholarship. So if you were not white, you had a chance of getting a scholarship through AIA. And I think that the foundation should understand that you can have multiple scholarships serving multiple people.
Yeah.
And to have a catch-all scholarship is not fair to anybody, because it's not just us who needs advancement, right? Like there's a whole slew of groups that needs to raise up. And I think when we were on the committee, changing it to Whitney M. Young would definitely give it that this is a Black scholarship. Instead of when you have the word diversity, it's all these non-white people, all these non-white students. And I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, in hindsight, I maybe have been more deliberate, but I think we eventually landed there. And as much as it may be a catch-all, I think that if you understand that the scholarship is about filling a void, then you can be deliberate in who you decide to give it to. Now, I will say, as the chair, I had been deliberate in making sure that whoever I put forward was Black. And every time there was an opportunity, because like we would get the 10 at the end, and inevitably there would be no Black people at the top of the list. And I would always push somebody to the top. So I like to think that at least 5 or 6 people that got that scholarship got pulled from, below the line up and put forward to get that scholarship because I said, no, you're going to look at this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all tried to do that.
Also, too, every architectural school is different in how they educate their students. If you compare all like fourth year students in every architecture school and tell them to do a portfolio, they will look completely different.
Right.
So here you have a bunch of professionals looking over students' work. There are some schools that will always be on top. And there are some schools that it's like comparing apples to fruit roll-ups, like it's
not even fruit.
It's not even fruit. It's fructose, So it's at a disadvantage. How would you create an even playing field? Because there's always a student that, like you said, like when you went to Prairie View, you questioned your education. So what would you say?
So I think the thing about architecture is we do not, at least in schools, recognize the diversity that is in architecture. I think that if we had a better appreciation for architecture not being just about design, I think that there may be more value put on, say, a Prairie View or an A&M versus a Rice. Rice is very design centered. That if you went to Rice, you're expecting that your portfolio is going to be, amazing. And like you said, I show up with my portfolio from Prairie View, and it may be a little different. But I think when people are interviewing, they need to recognize that, this student did not go to a design school, but guess what? We do a lot more than design. Like, who is designing in architecture, right? There are 2 or 3 people in the firm that are doing real design work. Everybody else is doing production. Everybody else is doing some kind of management. There's so many other things that architecture, I think, should be teaching students and should be showcasing and should be making, students feel like they can be successful in the field. They just don't do that. When I was at Prairie View, if you did well in your design studio, you're going to pass every other class. Like it didn't make sense. They don't connect in any way, shape, or form, right? Why is it that I am doing well in design studio? I now have this reputation of being a good designer, and somehow that translates to me getting an A in structures. Doesn't make any sense. But I think academia needs to do a better job of recognizing the diversity in the field and putting those things forward and recognizing that portfolio is not the be all and end all.
How would you measure it though, if it's not the portfolio?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not really sure. Like if I have a student that comes in with a portfolio and their portfolio is the work itself is not good work, I think I'm going to look at other things in their portfolio to see if there are other things. Like, is it well organized? Did they participate in anything while they were in school? Did they demonstrate any leadership skills or management skills? To be perfectly honest, when I look at a portfolio, that work does not matter to me. I am looking for more. I'm more looking for your layout skills. I'm looking for, how are you presenting this information to me? How are you presenting yourself in this interview? Where I don't think all people are looking at it that way. I think they really are looking through a portfolio trying to say if they've got the next, I don't know, I'm like trying to think of an architect's name.
Some fancy designer, architect-y person.
Fancy designer. They're looking for the next David Adjaye, and you're like, you're not going to get that guy, right? Mm-hmm. So why are you even looking for that? But I think people do that. But I think that they do that depending upon the school that they're looking at, right? I think that if you show up from Rice, I think that you're going to get a little more, I guess, forgiveness in your design ability. Where if you show up from A&M and your portfolio is trash, they're just going to be like, oh, no, you're just trash. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that that's what people could do. My hope is that when people are interviewing these students, that they do have some recognition that they need somebody to do more than design. A lot of these firms, they're not even hiring these students for design. So
They hire the students because of the school.
yeah,
I mean, strictly because they went to that school and they want to support their alum.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But in terms of the scholarship, the essays are very important, and as well as the recommendations. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they get some famous person to do the scholarship, to write the recommendation for. Being on that committee and reading the applications, that was the most striking difference, is the portfolios, and you see what year they were, whether they're graduate students or undergrad, whether they're third year or fifth year or whatever, just how much it varied. One of the things that you it says mentorship program. Did that start or?
Yeah. So we pick, I think, 3 students every year out of the top. Well, actually, this past year, they just said, Anzie, go look at them and tell us which ones you think should to be in the program. But it's still kind of a pilot program where we reach out to the components of the AIA, ask them to find us potential mentors. We get 4 or 5 resumes, and then we give those resumes to the student that's the diversity advancement scholar and say, hey, pick one or pick 2. How many, do you want any of these people to be your mentor? We don't assign anyone because we want them to make that choice. And then we just ask that they meet once a quarter to do whatever it is they think is helpful. So it's a real kind of, I want it to be organic, but I will tell you it's a little loosey-goosey right now. The only thing that's required is that they meet with them and then write something, like send us a form saying I met with them and this is what we did. I try to impart to the students when I first meet with them to explain the program that this program is about them and that they need to understand the value of networking, and that this is the first step in building that network. And if they choose not to take advantage of it, they'll see how right I am later. But they have a choice. And the only thing that we require is that they meet that once a quarter. And if they don't, then we may question whether or not they need to continue to have that scholarship. Because going back to your question about the application process for the scholarships, when I looked at the applicants, I was more interested in potential future leaders and whether or not they had demonstrated leadership ability. Because I would tell these mentees now, we did not give you the scholarship because you're cute or you're somehow outstanding, right? We gave you this scholarship because we are investing in you so you can be the future leaders of the AIA, right? So we're trying to teach you now that these are the things that you need to do in order to be successful, in order to be a leader. So when I look at those applications, those are the decisions I make. And now with this program, I meet with them once. Actually, I reached back out to them all throughout the year just to see how they're doing, see how their relationship's going. Some of them take it really seriously, some of them don't. And I think the only thing that I would want to do better is that trying to build the metric, trying to understand how they are interacting and whether or not it's helpful to them. So we've done like a survey to see what some of them think. Some of them want more structure. I think we've had maybe 10 students so far that have participated or are actively in the program right now. So we'll see.
And these are all scholarship recipients, right?
Yep.
Okay. And it's part of the requirement to maintain the scholarship, correct? Or yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a little extra that they have to do. They just have to meet somebody. It's not and it's just this one person, right? Like you just have to connect with this one person, go to their office once a quarter or invite them to your jury. And we tell them if the relationship doesn't work, call us. We'll find you another one.
Find you another one. No harm, no foul.
Yep. Yeah. So we have one now at Cornell. He is like the best. And I have, aside from the program setting him up with someone, we've also connected him with, more people. So like he's been connected with Steve Lewis. He's like, I don't know, he knows more about architecture and architects than anyone. So if I say somebody's name, he'd be like, oh yeah, can you introduce me to them? And I'm like, yeah, I can. So he's probably he's got two real mentors, but then he's just been introduced to 3 or 4 other people, since then, just because, we'll be having a conversation. He'll be like, yeah, I want to meet them too. And I'm like, yeah, great, we'll do it. So he seems to get it. So my hope is that we'll have more people like that as the years go by. So I think the application is like architecture in that we have a very small network. And if we don't reach outside of our little bubble, nobody's going to know about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we don't do a very good job of getting the word outside of our small bubble. And I think we feel like we're doing a good job. Like we really oh yeah, I've sent it to 50 people, but you just sent it to the same 50 people.
As you did last year. You didn't make any new friends, so your friends didn't make any new friends. So
yeah, so the architecture bubble is hard to get out of, I think.
There's more intermingling, I guess, that we need to do. Yeah. So I was really sitting here thinking about it, and we tend to say the same thing. We need to hit the school. We need to hit the school. But it's your alumni. It's the same school. You did not graduate from a new school,
Exactly.
And yeah, only recently I realized that.
Well, we need to architecture needs to get out of its own circle instead of going to. So I think the past chair of the Diversity Advancement Scholarship is like on these other committees with other organizations, and they go to these high school fairs, right? But they go to the same high schools too, right? So there are thousands of high schools across the country that we could be sending this application out to. I think the problem is that we don't have the infrastructure to really get the word out, right? I think if we put it on a website or we go to a college fair at these 1 or 2 high schools that we've done all that we can. And then even if you send, let's just say you send out a flyer to a high school, you'd actually have to reach back out to the high school and say, did you get that flyer? We want to make sure that, you share that with the students there. And then that person actually has to care enough to actually spread the word. We're doing a professional development program with HBCUs through NOMA right now. Mm-hmm. And I sent out a flyer to the leadership at the HBCU saying, hey, get the word out. And we're getting no response, right? And it's because it's sitting in somebody's email and they've got probably 5,000 emails that they haven't read. So they're not sharing the information. It isn't until I reach back out to the HBCUs and say, hey, we're not getting any feedback or any interest in this program. Do you understand what this program is? We are about to connect all of your students with architecture firms across the country with a commitment to hire them. And you're not spreading the word to your students. And it is that point that they go, oh, yeah. But it was that second touch, right? It was,
Yeah.
we sent it out thinking that we did what we needed to do. If I was not an HBCU grad, I probably wouldn't have done that second touch, right? And then after that, I start making phone calls like, hey, man, because I'm getting concerned. I'm going, wait a minute, did this happen to me? Like I was at an HBCU, the school got the information, and they didn't share it with me. And that's why I had to go find my own job. But I think it requires someone at the AIA or the Architects Foundation going a little bit further, right? Just going in just a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we get plenty of applicants. I know we feel like we should be getting more, but in the end, how many scholarships are we given?
Yeah.
So,
but in the end, I feel like it always goes to the same schools.
Oh, yeah. I don't disagree with you.
And I want to change that, but how do you do that?
It's just going that extra mile. You gotta do a little more. Mm-hmm. You gotta reach out to that local high school that nobody is reaching out to.
Yep. All right, Nance, I think that's all I have for you.
Okay, cool. I am on LinkedIn now.
What? Is your picture on there?
My picture is on there.
What?
I know. I don't know what made me join. I'm just not. Social media is creepy to me. Maybe it's because what I do when I'm there. I feel like I'm lurking. Like I'm just on people's pages looking at stuff, and I'm like, they don't even know I'm looking through their stuff.
You would think that way.
No, so I'm like,
because that's what people do to you.
I know. That's why I'm not putting my stuff up there. That's weird. I don't like strangers flipping through my stuff. Even with LinkedIn, they'll say, you showed up in 13 searches. I'm like, why? Why? Who's looking for me? I don't like it.
But, you got to put yourself out there, though.
Do I?
Listen, it's all part of more Black licensed women out there. And your number, whatever number you are.
I don't know. Everybody knows their number. I do not know my number.
It moves, just to let you know.
Why? Because people die?
Because people die.
Wow. It shouldn't move.
Well, there's two sets of numbers, put it that way. So
how do I find out what my number is?
You just go on the website.
No, you can't search it that way anymore.
What do you mean?
You used to be able to search by state and by gender. You can't search by gender anymore.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Look,
because now somebody just told me, because literally online, someone, pinged me and was like, there's only 2 of us in wherever state they're in. 2.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but you can't. I don't know. There used to be a way that you could. Here, look, I'm looking it up now. Where is it? But you're right. There is value in social media. Like Kim Dowdell, NOMA's like on the map now because of her.
Because that's why it's important. That's why it's important. That's why I was like, you know what? People need to know who Anzilla is. Because Anzilla ain't going to let other people know who Anzilla is.
They need to make that more prominent on this website.
I know it's kind of buried a little bit. But there's a list, but it's not in numerical order.
No. Yeah, no. Like I found this list because I Googled myself right after I got registered. And I think back then I would have been able to get my number from Dennis because he was actually counting. But now when you go in, all you can do is go to your state. And then it'll have everybody's listed from your state. You can't search women anymore. Like you used to be able to drill down. I think you can search by last name and you can search by state. And that's it.
Yep, you are correct.
But there are a whole bunch of people in Texas who used to be able to just search for women. And they were like, when I searched for myself, there were 2, or there were 4.
And they remove all the ones who have passed.
Do they?
Yeah, they did.
They used to just put a star next to them.
You don't see any stars here.
Now I'm looking. Hold on. See? Let's see. Texas. Let's see. Simon Wilts. Yep, Simon's gone. So did they take the lady off? Because there was a woman, the third or fourth. She died. And I don't remember her name. Well, that's terrible. They shouldn't be deleting them. All right, lady. Is there anything else you need?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. Well, you have fun. I think it's wonderful that you're doing these things.
That's something to do. And like you said, it's, there was a need. There's no one's talking to anyone.
Have you talked to Donna Carter?
No. Do I know Donna Carter?
You need Donna Carter. So Donna Carter is the first Black female registered in the state of Texas.
Well, I need to talk to Donna Carter then.
Yeah, she's interesting. She went to Yale.
Oh.
I know, fancy. Like, and you'd never know it. Like when you see she's this little bitty lady, just kind of unassuming. And then you talk to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't." And I think she went to Yale because it was down the street. Like, oh yeah, I went to Yale because it was in the neighborhood.
It was just there.
Like,
I had to go to a school. Exactly. I picked that one.
And she's like, I think she might be in her late 60s, early 70s, maybe. I know. It doesn't make any sense that someone her age is the first anything.
Mm-hmm. It surprises me. It just surprises me how everyone's still alive and they're the first of something.
I agree. When when I tell people that like I'm the first in Houston, and they're like, "Wow, you should be so proud." I'm like, "No, that is pathetic."
That's not something to be proud of at all. You shouldn't be. You should have been like the 384th person.
Yeah, I should.
Not number 1 or number 2.
Yeah, that was just in 2004. Yeah, that's crazy.
So are you and you're the second FAIA in the state?
No, women. I think it's the third. It's Donna, then Cheryl, then me.
And you.
Yeah.
Okay. Crazy. Thanks, Anz.
No problem. Thank you. Good talking to you.
Same. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, listeners. I have an exciting announcement. I decided to launch a membership program for the show, where you have a chance to support me and the show directly. I love creating the show, and it means the world to me that you all tune in to keep hearing me week after week. But it takes an immense amount of time and energy to produce. I want to keep the show going, and I want to invest in its growth. And I also want you to become a partner with me in this journey. That's why I'm excited to give you a chance to officially become a supporter of the show at glow.fm/archispolly, ARCHISPOLLY, or by clicking the link in the show notes. It's quick and easy. It takes less than 30 seconds and just takes clicking a link in the show notes and using Apple or Google Pay. You don't have to create any new logins, and you can contribute as much or as little as you like. If this show is part of your day or week, and you like what I'm doing, then visit glow.fm/archispolly, all one word, and support me and the show in any way you can today.